Ms. Hoban, you may come forward, offer your statement there at the lectern.
First, I'd like to thank the court for allowing me to give a statement here today. I'm Tammy Vicki. I was able to attend a big part of this trial, and so my first comment will be to address what I felt the defendant's behavior was. I felt she was shameful during the trial. It was apparent to me and others that the defendant did not take the proceedings in this courtroom seriously. It was extremely disrespectful to watch, especially during some of the most sensitive and heartbreaking testimony. Her smirking, her smiling, giggling, talking.
Judge, I'm going to object based on State versus Payne, based on the Idaho Constitution, based on Idaho Code 1953-06. She's supposed to give an impact statement, which the defendant's criminal conduct had upon the victim. Payne states that the victim impact statement must relate to the characteristics of the victim and the emotional impact of the crime on the family.
We have a brief sidebar with Mr. Thomas and Mr. Wood. All right, the court will just note on the record, there was an objection lodged on this victim impact statement. I had a brief sidebar with counsel and discussed that. I do in part grant the objection, and I've instructed the state to discuss that with the victim to tailor her comments to those appropriate for an impact statement at this point. So, Mr. Wood, I gave you an opportunity to discuss that with Ms. Hoban. Ms. Hoban, if you're ready to continue, apologies for the interruption, but we want to make sure the record's followed carefully here.
Thank you. The type of vibe that was in the courtroom at the time was really hurtful to us. We were unable to be in our feelings and listen to the testimony without having extreme emotion. I'll say it this way. This was a woman who had killed her own children and was on trial for doing that and for killing Tammy, and felt that she could have had more respect for the family members in the courtroom. Tammy was a most excellent person, and she led her life with the utmost dignity and was beloved not only by our family, but by the community at large. There will be a huge void, and this is Tammy's story, and therefore it's part of our family history. This statement will not be about Lori. It will be about Tammy because it's her story. It's her life that was taken. She was a mom, a grandma, a daughter, a sister, a niece, a cousin, friend, and yes, she was a librarian. But more than a librarian, she was a teacher. She loved her job and went above and beyond for her students. Her last days filled with preparing a book fair for underserved children. I'm sure when she arrived home Friday, October 18th, 2019, she was very tired from a long day and the hours at school. As she got into bed that night, I would imagine she was thinking the same thing as every other night. Nothing more than getting a good night's sleep once her eldest had checked in from his late night job. She had no idea what the plan was for that night, or what had been the plan for quite some time. Unbeknownst to her, there had been quite a bit of discussion about how to get rid of the obstacles that Lori had. Lori had already killed 2 of her children. Tammy was next on her list of obstacle removal. Lori wanted money, sex, and more power, and what Lori wants, Lori gets. The plan was in place on how to get it. Instead of a good night's sleep, Tammy was brutally executed in her own bed. She was taken from us by murdering thieves. Lori sits here convicted and prepped for prison. And let's be honest, the only question left is for how long? But Tammy was robbed of her entire life. And all of her family robbed of ever seeing her again. Never will she whisper a joke with a friend and laugh. Never see another sunrise or a sunset. Never smell fresh rain or see her grandchildren stomp through a mud puddle. Never to hear being called grandma or mom. Not another birthday, Christmas, birth of a grandchild, graduation from preschool. No seeing pictures of prom, first dates, or weddings. No searching for something fun to do or growing a garden. Never attending one of our families just for the girls' lunches where we reconnected from all over, laughed about the good old times. And the funny way that Grandma Cooper took pictures. And then we take photos with each other that we would compare at the next lunch. There would never be another hilarious rendition of Patty and her singing "Do Your Ears Hang Low." She'd never wave at a friend as they passed by. Make dinner for a sick friend. Never have a last conversation with her beautiful mother. Or one last kiss goodbye. No more of her dad's dad jokes or Samantha's outdoor parties. No more lining up with all of her siblings to get the photo at the next event. A life full of people she loved and who loved her deeply. Her life was snuffed out. To say heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, unbearable is not a big enough statement to convey knowing the way this most excellent existence was taken by planning and execution. The most innocent of lives was simply just discarded like it meant nothing, but it did. And like all of Lucille's grandchildren, her life was a vibe. It was a valiant and unreproachable life. Lori, you participated in the savage murders of precious people of great value and worth. It is most likely something that you would probably never understand, to be selfish and just to live life in a simple way, enjoying life for what it is, to love, to be loved, to smile, and to be smiled at. While you had a shameful relationship with Tammy's husband and planned out a murder, Tammy lived her life. She supported her family in every way. And for you to turn her home where she lived and slept into a cemetery, her two innocent and beautiful children, is one of the most horrific things I can think of. Tammy would have been horrified to know what you had done, and it has broken us as a family. You are now going to pay the price, albeit never sufficient in this life. It's all that we can do. I hope that the life you live is filled with fear, and that every day you are terrified, just the way that beautiful Tylee lived in fear for hers and sweet JJ as you continue terrifying her by saying they would be zombies. And she knew the consequences of being what you called dark. Tylee had many wonderful friends that loved her, and in a cruel irony, my granddaughter was a good friend to Tylee. This friend group can still to this day not speak of Tylee freely. They are so stuck in their grief and sadness for their friend who is savagely brutalized and murdered at her mother's hands. It's unconscionable to them, and the grief is still overwhelming. In closing, I would like to thank all of the law enforcement, the FBI, the investigators, the prosecutors, the administration. Everybody has worked so diligently on this case. Especially want to thank those who had to see those things that can't be unseen. We understand your pain also, and grateful for the many, many hours of hard work and dedication and the search for the truth. Thank you, Judge. I trust that you will do the correct penalty for this. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Hoban, thank you for your impacts